You found Orivyn rise. That means you were chosen. You've been told that this is your awakening, that this is the first time your eyes are opening. But the truth goes deeper than that. This isn't your beginning, it's your remembering. You are not waking up, you are returning. There are memories hidden in your cells, knowledge encoded in your DNA, echoes from lifetimes past and soul missions paused. This life, it is not a fresh start. It is the next chapter in a long continuum of divine duty. The signs have been scattered across your existence. Strange dreams, intuitive pulls, moments of unexplainable knowing, a feeling that you've done this before, that you stood in this moment in a form the world no longer remembers. You didn't stumble into this. You were always meant to find your way back. This shift was written into your path long before you took your first breath. Before we go further, I want you to stay with me until the end of this message. This is not just a video. It is a mirror for your soul. And if your heart feels the frequency of these words, I invite you to write your warmest wishes in the comments with 777, a sacred seal to activate the current of manifestation. Let this moment open the gates. Let your intention ripple across the universe. Let the divine meet you halfway. You see, they called it an awakening because they forgot who you are. They thought you were starting from zero. They believed the world had succeeded in erasing you. But you've always been encoded with more than what this world taught you. You've known pain because pain has a memory. And what you're remembering is power. There's a reason you've always felt out of place. Not because you're broken, not because you're flawed, but because your soul remembers dimensions the people around you forgot. You weren't designed to fit into the system. You were designed to break the illusion of it. You were born with ancient eyes. You've cried tears over wounds that did not originate in this life, because your remembrance is multi-layered. And now, the veil is lifting. This is not spiritual trend. This is not coincidence. This is not entertainment. This is a cosmic retrieval of the original blueprint, a sacred return to the roles you played before you were made small. Your truth has always been beneath the surface, waiting. It couldn't be erased, only buried. You are not here to learn who you are. You are here to remember who you were before forgetting. The signs are everywhere now. Time feels distorted. People from your past are resurfacing not by accident, but as markers of what's being closed. You find yourself sensing things before they happen. Your dreams are not dreams. They're maps. The numbers, the symbols, the synchronicities. These are fragments of an ancient language returning to you. You are decoding the universe not by studying it, but by feeling it again. You never lost your gifts. They were sealed. And now, they're being unlocked, not by some external force, but by your readiness to reclaim them. This is a returning, not a lesson, a restoration, a rising. The light you carry was never extinguished. It was veiled to protect you until the world was ready, or until you were. Every time you said, "This doesn't feel right," your soul was whispering. Every time you said, "There must be more than this," your memory was activating. And now, as reality bends and everything accelerates, you are no longer able to live blind. You are no longer able to live numb. You are no longer able to play a character you never agreed to be. You are remembering the contract your soul signed, before the noise, before the chaos, before the amnesia. That's why you felt the grief. Grief is the echo of what you forgot. It's the sorrow of knowing how much of yourself you abandoned to survive in a world that didn't recognize you. But the returning brings resurrection. You are calling all of yourself back. This isn't just personal. This is ancestral. This is planetary. This is divine. You're restoring timelines through every choice you make, every false belief you dismantle, every piece of truth you speak, even when your voice shakes. You're not just healing your own heart. You're sending ripples through every bloodline that made you. And that is why they fear you. Not they as in people, but the constructs, the control systems, the shadows that feed on confusion. Because a remembered soul is a dangerous one. You can't be lied to once you see. You can't be bound once you rise. You can't be manipulated once you remember who you were before the world gave you a name. You don't need permission to be this powerful. You don't need validation to carry light. You don't need an audience to stand in your truth. This was never about them. This was always about you returning to the throne. They hoped you'd never remember, and you have. So much of your life wasn't confusion. It was contrast. You weren't lost. You were being led through layers of distortion to remember what truth feels like. Every misalignment, every betrayal, every silence you were forced to hold inside wasn't random. They were echoes, triggers, ancient signals reminding you of what you came to restore. You weren't placed in that family by accident. You weren't dropped into that job, that town, that system by chance. It was all coded, calculated, divine. Because even in your pain, your higher self was positioning you like a master chess player, not to win their game, but to end it. You weren't sent here to play within the structure. You were sent to undo it. When your soul returns, it brings back visions, not fantasies, but memories. You start to see things before they happen, because you've walked this timeline before. You sense when something is wrong even when everyone around you is smiling, because you remember the frequency of deception. You may not recall the language, but your body does. Your nervous system does. Your dreams have been repeating scenes you once lived. Try to remind you. You have done this before. And now the loop is breaking. You've met people you felt you've known forever. You've heard words that pierce you even though they came from strangers. That's not coincidence. That's soul recognition. Soul codes. Sacred geometry vibrating through people, places, and situations that were meant to bring you back into yourself. This is why the world began to look unreal to you. Why the news, the gossip, the small talk started to feel like static noise. Because once you start returning, the illusions start dissolving. You stop craving validation from the people who were never capable of seeing you. You stop begging for belonging in places that were never designed for you. You stop explaining your soul to those who only understand surfaces. You don't owe anyone an explanation for who you're becoming. In fact, you're not becoming anything. You are remembering who you were before the fear was implanted, before doubt was a default, before forgetting became survival. You are retrieving the fragments of yourself that were scattered across timelines, across identities, across dimensions. And every day you choose alignment over approval, you recover another piece. People ask, why do I feel like I'm losing my mind? You're not. You're losing the illusion. And for a brief moment, that looks like madness, because what we were taught to call normal was often just compliance. You were praised when you betrayed yourself. You were rewarded for shrinking. You were celebrated when you forgot your soul. But that time is over now. That's why the breakdown had to happen. The breakdown is the holy initiation before the remembrance. You were not being destroyed. You were being emptied, cleared out, prepared to carry something ancient again. And you are carrying it now. The old self, the one molded by trauma and programming, was a costume. The real you is rising through the cracks, wrapped in fire, clothed in memory. You've begun to reclaim sacred rage, the kind that doesn't destroy but awakens, the kind that says, enough, enough forgetting, enough apologizing, enough shape-shifting to make others comfortable. You remember the part of you that was once feared by empires and adored by angels, and now it's time to live as that truth. You are a carrier of frequency, and every room you enter shifts because of it. You don't have to say a word. Your presence is your power. It's not charisma, it's soul light. It's the vibration of someone who remembered who they are. And that is a threat to everything built on control. People will misunderstand you. Let them. They don't recognize you because they only know you by your former name. They know the version of you that adapted, not the one that activated. But your remembrance does not require their understanding. It only requires your commitment, because this world needs you remembered. It needs your words, your voice, your vision, not the watered-down version, but the raw, radiant one. It needs the one who dreams with open eyes, the one who knows how to see beyond what's in front of them, the one who remembers what the soul knows even when the world forgets. And if it feels like you're doing this alone, you're not. Other chosen ones are waking too, scattered like seeds across the planet, returning to themselves in the silence, speaking truth into the void, holding light in the dark. You are not isolated. You are strategically placed. The grid is reconnecting. The ancient circle is reforming. The ones who once stood beside you are returning too. And when you all remember, the system will shake. This is the storm before the revelation, the pressure before the emergence. And you are the signal. You are not awakening. You are returning to finish what was started long before you were given a name. There is a sacred design beneath everything, a pattern so precise it escapes the logic of this world. And you, yes, you, were inscribed into that pattern before time even began. You didn't just wake up one day and decide to change your life. Your remembrance was always written. The sacred geometry of your being was coded to activate exactly when it did, not a second earlier. Do you wonder why certain words, images, or sounds hit you so deeply they bring tears to your eyes for no logical reason? Why ruins feel familiar? Why ancient texts stir something and you no history book could explain? Because the soul doesn't forget, it only waits. And yours has been waiting a long time. This isn't a sudden realization. This is ancient recognition. You're not learning. You're re-encountering what you once lived, what you once vowed, what you once knew. And with each moment of alignment, your true self reclaims space in this world. This is why you become more sensitive to noise, to crowds, to lies, to dishonesty in others, and more painfully, in yourself. You can't tolerate the dissonance anymore because your frequency is recalibrating the truth, and anything that doesn't resonate with that truth feels unbearable. You're being tuned, not broken. Even your solitude has been a sacred assignment. You didn't disconnect from the world because you were weak. You were pulled inward because the noise would drown the remembering. Your isolation was a sacred womb where you could finally hear your soul speak. And in that silence, you began to notice you've always known more than you could explain. As a child, you might have seen things others couldn't, felt emotions that weren't yours, been drawn to the stars, to symbols, to stories of angels or warriors or kingdoms lost to time. You weren't imagining it. You were remembering your origin, and the world convinced you to forget. They told you to grow up, to get realistic, to let go of the fantasy. But what they called fantasy was your soul's autobiography bleeding through the veil. You were never like them because you were never meant to be. You were a sleeper agent for the divine, hidden in plain sight, walking among the world, quietly gathering fragments of yourself until the signal came. And now it has. That signal may have come as pain, as a breakdown, as betrayal, as deep loss or disillusionment. Because sometimes the soul needs something to shake the foundation in order to rise. The darkness didn't come to destroy you. It came to burn away what was false. It came to dissolve the version of you the world shaped, so the real one could return. You've already begun the restoration. Every time you trusted your intuition when it made no sense. Every time you said no, even when pressured to say yes. Every time you felt peace in silence rather than in noise. These were the signs that your return was underway. And it doesn't matter how far you strayed. It doesn't matter how long you forgot. The moment you remember, eternity floods back in, because you've never been alone in this. The guides, the ancestors, the higher beings you sometimes feel watching you. They're real. They've always been with you, protecting the memory until you could hold it again. You are not fragile. You are eternal. Your soul is layered, not linear, and all your lifetimes have led to this one. For a reason, you are the bridge between timelines, a living convergence point, a soul who volunteered to bring the ancient into the now. That's why you've never quite belonged to any one identity. You were never just this or that, never just one role, one belief, one culture, one system. You are many flowing through one, and your return is not just for you. Every light you ignite, every word you speak in truth, creates ripples across dimensions. You are healing entire generations by simply being real. And that is more powerful than any institution, any title, any narrative they try to place over you. You're not here to fit into the story. You're here to rewrite it. They may call you intense, dramatic, too sensitive, too quiet, too much. Let them. Their words are based on a version of you they met when you were asleep. Let them meet you now, wide awake and deeply returned. This is why your presence unsettles some people. It's not your attitude. It's your remembrance. It reminds them of the truth they buried. And when they look at you, they see the reflection of what they ran from. Let that be their mirror, not your weight. Because the more you return to who you truly are, the less you'll feel the need to be anything for anyone else. You weren't meant to perform. You were meant to be, and now you are. When you return, the veil doesn't lift all at once. It peels back in layers, one belief at a time, one truth at a time, one shattered illusion at a time. There's grief in this process. Grief for who you thought you were, for the people you once trusted, for the life you tried so hard to build while asleep. And yet, there is also beauty. Because underneath all the false stories and self-doubt lies something stunningly ancient, a soul blueprint untouched by time. Every fragment you gather, every truth you reclaim, fits together like sacred architecture. The temple of your being is being rebuilt. At first, the world around you may not understand. People will call it a phase. They will ask why you've changed, why you don't laugh at the same jokes, why you don't chase the same things. But you haven't changed. You've returned, and they're still speaking to your former self. You might feel lonely here, but you're not. You're simply standing ahead of the curve, holding a vibration the collective hasn't yet remembered. Your very energy is a preview of what's coming. You are a prototype of the new world being born. And what's more sacred than that? You were born with a mission so layered it cannot be defined by titles or achievements. Your purpose isn't just what you do, it's what you are. Every breath you take with awareness, every step you walk with truth, every gaze you hold with compassion is part of the plan. You weren't sent to convert anyone. You were sent to radiate, to walk as light, to carry the codes of remembrance within your energy field. That's why your presence shifts rooms. That's why strangers tell you their secrets. Why children and animals are drawn to you. Why broken systems reject you. Because you're not here to perpetuate cycles. You're here to end them. And with that power comes a responsibility to remember what is yours and what is theirs. You are not here to carry the pain of others. You are not a sponge. You are a flame, a lighthouse. You guide, not absorb. You shine, not sacrifice. The time of martyrdom is over. This return is not about suffering. It is about sovereignty. You are reclaiming your space, your voice, your joy. And joy, for someone like you, is revolutionary. They taught you that your seriousness was a burden. But in truth, it was your inner compass trying to keep you focused on the sacred. You weren't too deep. You were too real for a world built on pretending. Now, you're rising in remembrance. You're relearning the language of your soul, the ancient rhythm that beats beneath your ribs, the dreams that feel like instruction, the visions that come without warning. These aren't fantasies. They're transmissions. And the more you trust them, the more your reality bends to match your inner truth. This is where magic returns, not as trickery, but as alignment. You notice the right people appear at the right time. The right words come through when needed. You think of someone and they message. You begin to feel the threads of the universe weaving through you, not around you. And suddenly, you don't feel like a victim of fate. You feel like its partner. Because when you remember who you are, life stops happening to you and begins happening through you. That's why things are accelerating. Why your timeline is collapsing old stories. Why you can no longer fake smiles or force connections. You are becoming friction to everything that isn't truth. And that is exactly how it was meant to be. The more you return, the less noise you need, the less validation you crave, the less attention you seek. Because you're not looking for something to complete you. You found the center inside yourself, the home you were always longing for. You, your breath, your being, your eternal knowing. And while the world may continue to spin in chaos, you found stillness in the storm. Not because the storm isn't real, but because you become the eye of it. A silent force of remembrance amidst the forgetting. A guardian of light cloaked in human skin. You don't need to scream to be heard anymore. You don't need to prove your worth. Your very existence is evidence of a promise fulfilled, a soul returned, a prophecy walking. This is what it means to come home to yourself. This is what it means to remember. The return is quiet at first. It doesn't need fanfare or approval. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply is. A state of being, not a proclamation. You don't have to tell people you've changed. Your energy speaks louder than words ever could. And those who were never meant to come with you, they fall away like leaves in autumn. This is not loss. This is alignment. You no longer chase what vibrates against your nature. You no longer sit at tables where your truth is too loud. You no longer dim so others can shine. Because you finally remembered, your light was never a competition. It was a signal, a beacon, and those meant for you will know it when they see it. The life ahead of you is not a repeat of what came before. You're no longer operating under karmic loops and inherited pain. That ended the moment you chose to return. You've stepped off the wheel. You're no longer spinning. You're soaring. This new timeline isn't something you manifest with your mind. It's something you activate with your presence, with every breath taken in truth, with every moment you choose integrity over comfort. When you move from that place, reality bends in your favor, not because you're lucky, but because you're true. You begin to realize that abundance isn't just money, it's alignment. Peace is wealth. Authenticity is prosperity. Silence is sanctuary. And joy is your natural state. These things can't be taken from you anymore because they are no longer sourced from outside of you. You reclaim the internal wellspring, the eternal flame. The world may not applaud your return, but the universe echoes with recognition. And now, strange synchronicities become normal. Dreams begin to guide. You feel things before they happen. You sense when someone is lying without evidence. You walk into rooms and immediately read their frequency. This is not arrogance. This is ancestral memory. You are remembering how to see. You no longer fit into the old containers because you weren't made for them. You are water to a parched world, fire to a frozen system, earth to a crumbling foundation, and air to a choking generation. You are all four elements braided into consciousness, walking in form. A living myth wrapped in flesh and breath. And it's not because you are better. It's because you remembered. You came to remind others, not with words but with embodiment, to show what it looks like to live truthfully, to love deeply, to walk humbly in great power. Your life is now the sermon. Your path is a prophecy. Even when it feels like no one sees you, trust that everything sees you. The heavens align with your frequency. Nature whispers your name. Time waits for your decision. You are not late. You are precisely on divine schedule. This is why certain doors didn't open, why some relationships collapsed, why things didn't make sense before. Because they weren't meant for the return version of you. They were aligned with a version that forgot, and that version no longer exists. There's nobility in this path, but there is also simplicity. You don't need to move mountains. Your presence is the mountain, the stability, the guidance, the force. There will still be challenges, tests, moments that feel like echoes of the old life. But now, you move through them with a different awareness. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer fear. You observe. You no longer question your worth. You walk in it. And every step you take becomes an invitation for others to do the same. You may never get the recognition your ego once craved, but your soul doesn't want applause. It wants resonance. And when you walk in remembrance, you find those who carry the same light. They appear without effort. Family of frequency, kin of soul. They recognize the signal you've been transmitting in silence. And when you gather, even in small numbers, the world shifts. So don't underestimate the quiet power of your return. The most important revolutions begin not with riots, but with remembering, not with crowds, but with clarity. You are that clarity. You are that remembrance. You are that revolution, not awakening, returning. Your return isn't an ending. It's a beginning written in the stars long before this lifetime. You've reached the sacred threshold, not of enlightenment, but of embodiment, because this was never about escaping the world. It was about returning to it, rooted, risen, and radiating truth. You now understand what most cannot even name, that the real journey was never about becoming something more. It was about shedding what was never yours. letting go of the roles, the masks, the generational programming, remembering that the seed of divinity was never given to you. It was revealed in you. You are no longer reaching outside of yourself for answers. You become the question and the response, the seeker and the seer, the wound and the healer. And with that recognition comes a peace deeper than understanding, a peace that simply is. You start to live slower, speak with more weight, move with intention. Your silence becomes powerful. Your gaze, a mirror. You are no longer loud with your truth. You are quiet, and that quiet is deafening. Not because you hide, but because you have nothing left to prove. And this is your liberation. Others will still try to name you, to define you, to box you. They'll project their confusion onto your clarity. But it no longer sticks. You remembered your shape. You remembered your soul sound. You remembered your rhythm. And so you no longer bend. You simply stand. And as you stand, others start to remember too, because the return is contagious. Every soul you encounter feels the vibration of remembrance in your field. Even if they can't name it, they're stirred by it. You plant seeds everywhere you go, not by effort, but by essence. You are walking permission for others to awaken, to return, to be. You are the torchbearer, not in pride, but in service. And yet, it's not a burden, because this time you're not walking alone. You're walking as part of lineage, seen and unseen. The ancestors are with you. The guides are with you. The divine itself is with you. And for the first time, you feel that not as a concept, but as a truth rooted in your bones. You've crossed the threshold where fear loses its voice. Doubt becomes a whisper. You still feel them, but they no longer steer. You are steered by something deeper now, an ancient intelligence within, a compass that doesn't point north. It points inward. And when you live from this place, everything changes. You attract not just what you want, but what aligns, what supports, what honors the sacredness of your walk. Opportunities begin to appear. Soul connections emerge. The path unfolds in ways you never imagined, not because you forced it, but because you flowed with it. And in this flow, you begin to experience heaven, not above you, but within you. You realize the kingdom was never somewhere you had to earn your way into. It was always something you had to remember your way back to. And now here you are, returned. Your journey will still have depth, but it will be depth with direction. You'll still feel, but you'll no longer drown. You'll still give, but not at the expense of your center. You'll still care, but without abandoning your calling, because this time your light stays on, even when it flickers, even when it's challenged, even when it's unseen. You no longer become, you are. And so, dear soul, walk forward not as someone seeking the path, but as the path itself. You are the reminder, the frequency, the return, and the world has been waiting for this version of you all along. You're not awakening. You've come home. If this message found you, let it rest in your spirit. Until we meet again, stay awake, stay chosen.